Reese is involved and all, in helping to put stuff together. But yeah, we started looking. As soon as we found out what the theme was several months ago, we started going to thrift stores looking for different kinds of fancy little lights and things that we could use. So it comes from a lot of different places, and but it comes together, and they put it all together, and they work for about 3 months for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Then we tear it all down and send it somewhere else, or put it in one of these storage rooms. But there's a lot involved in it, and we wore out usually for days when it's over, but it's worth it. But we had a good time. I enjoyed it. Randy was still in the hospital Thursday. He had told me when I'd gone to see him the first time that he started carrying a little pouch, over the shoulder pouch that's got his phone. I knew it had his phone in there and his wallet. But well, I found out the other day it also has his toothbrush and his toothpaste and his razor. I said, so that's everything, just in case you get stranded somewhere, you're ready. So I brought all of that to him Thursday, and he sat there and shaved, and he got more enjoyment out of shaving than anything that he did, I guess. But he said he thought he'd probably be going home the next few days, but I don't think he really had a clue. I don't know that the doctor mentioned to him anything about it, but keep him in your prayers. He has been moved to a different room. I think he's in 223 now with another gentleman. I told y'all that they were thinking about moving into that room with the guy that was almost as smart as him. Well, that's where he's at now. And I met the other guy, and he seems to be excited about Randy being in there. They've become friends, and they have a lot of discussions together, so that's all good for Randy too. Alan was here for deacon's meeting, but he's had somewhere else he had to be today, and he just came for the deacon's meeting and had to go take care of something else, go somewhere else with a friend to a different church. So I think he's going to church with his parents, which if I could go to church with my parents, I'd be there too. So keep him in your prayers as well. Things going on in his life. The deacons had a good discussion this morning about a lot of things. So a couple of things in particular, 2 or 3 things. Keep us in prayer as we continue to pursue that. I will be on vacation next week. Ronnie will be taking over, so keep him in your prayers. He'll need y'all's help and support. When you do this every week, you kind of get used to it, but when you only do it every once in a while, sometimes it's a little more difficult. So keep him in your prayers, and come prepared to be involved in the class. All right, getting to the scripture. We've done the first 12 chapters of Joshua, kind of on almost a chapter by chapter basis. The last couple weeks has been a little bit more. This week it takes us from chapter 13 through the end of the book, because it's the first part is the preparing to go and the conquering of the land of Canaan, the promised land. Chapter 13 through the end of the book is mostly spent telling how that was divided. What tribe got what part. Now there are 12 tribes of Israel, but as you will read and we will study in this section, the tribe of Levi was the priests and those who worked in the temple. And God had always said they would not get a land. They would not get a territory. There would be no land, this is the land of of Levi. He said that God himself was their inheritance. The working in the temple was their inheritance. What they did get was scattered around over the whole thing. There were 48 cities that were given to the Levites. And as it turns out, I was reading in a commentary on this last night. The cities that the Levites got were some of the better cities. They were, God always reserves, he wants us to give him our best. Give him, like we talked about Jericho. That was the first thing they captured, and God said, give it all to me. Kill everything living, everything else goes into the temple. That's kind of like the tithe. And then when they went to Ai and the rest of them, they could take plunder and keep it as part of their possessions. The tribe of Levi are God's people, are God's representatives, God's priests, God's temple and tabernacle people. And they were given 48 cities scattered around so that everybody would have access to the Levi tribe in leading in their worship and leading and helping them with their different things they had to do as far as their offerings and their sacrifices. So even though they didn't receive a territory, they did receive cities and pasture lands, for their flocks or whatever they were. That created a situation where now there's only 11. But the land was going to be divided among 12 tribes. Joseph was one of the sons of Israel. Joseph himself did not get a division. He had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And they took Joseph's place. And that was, of course, because, Joseph, you hear the story of Joseph, how he basically was sold into slavery but went on to become second in command in Egypt. And as a result of his following God and obeying God and building up the reserves during the time of the famine, when there was nothing to eat, the children of Israel were brought there and they were well taken care of and able to grow and become stronger because of his position and because of his faith and what his faith had led him. So it was kind of like an extra blessing to Joseph that he didn't get any land called the land of Joseph, but both of his two sons received a separate inheritance, which brought the number back up to 12. So that's how the 12 tribes or the 12 sections of land were divided. Levi got cities instead of a land, and Joseph's two sons received sections instead of Joseph. So there's a lot of different things that lead up to all of this, and you have to kind of look at it. But in the beginning of the 14th chapter, we come to the part where, in the beginning of 13th, God has said, there's still a lot of land y'all hadn't taken. When they first came the first time to the shores of the Jordan, Joshua and Caleb were probably around 40 years old. And because their reports were not believed and taken seriously, and the other people came back saying, no, we can't do it, God said that, okay, none of y'all will live to go into the promised land except Joshua and Caleb. So here they come back the second time when they enter into Canaan. Joshua and Caleb are like 80 years old. All right, when we pick up what we're studying today, Caleb is 85. So that means they have spent 5 years taking what part of the promised land that they have completed. But the Lord comes to him and said, there's still a lot that you hadn't done. There's still a lot to do. But they had basically gotten it to the point that they would capture this particular area, and maybe there was still some people out here that they needed to get out and get out of the way and get rid of, and the Lord wanted them to just completely destroy them. But in a lot of cases they didn't. They just moved in and took over and didn't complete the job. And God said there's still a lot of land out there that needs to be taken. Some of the tribes, when they were given their allotment, they said, well, that's not big enough. And they said, well, go out there and take that hill. Well, there's all them people that we don't, they're big and they got fortresses and they got chariots. And I said, God's giving it to you, go get it. But I think the main thing, the study behind this lesson today is about Caleb. Like I said, Caleb was 40 years old at the time when they first came. He went in and he walked the land and he came back, and just like all the rest of them, he said, there's a land of great produce, great milk and honey, as they referred to it. They brought the grapes. He said it took 2 people to carry a limb full of grapes. There was so many big old grapes on it that it took 2 people to carry it and bring it back. And they were showing all this, and they said, yeah, but the land's got giants. Call them Anakim. The land of Anakim. And these were giants. They were like Goliath and that bunch. And Caleb had been through there, and he said, yeah, but we can take them. God will give us those people. But 10 of the guys said, no, we can't do it. And the people turned back and didn't go. So here in this lesson today, Caleb says, okay, I told you the first time we could take them, y'all wouldn't believe me, so we spent 40 years running in the desert. So now we're here and we've been spent 5 years taking all this other land. He said, but Joshua, you remember when we had the first time, when we came back and me and you gave a report from our heart. We didn't allow the things that we saw to discourage us from what God had promised us, and we gave a true report that we thought God could take this land for us. And he said, God through Moses said, you will receive the land that your feet trod on. And Caleb said, you know over there where them giants are? He said, that's what I want. He said, the one everybody's scared to death of? He said, that's what I want. He said, I'm 85 years old. And he said, I'm still just as strong as I was the first time I came into this land 45 years ago. He said, God has kept me strong. He's kept me full of energy. And I just can't imagine that. You know, I'm not near 85, and I hope I don't have to go to war tomorrow. Don't want to even fight a midget, not much less a giant. But Caleb said, I believe God could give it to us then. He said, and I think he can still do it now that I'm 85 years old. He said, I've waited 45 years for this opportunity. He said, put me in, coach. So Joshua said, okay, you take it. And it was called the land of Hebron, or it is now. It wasn't then. It was called by a different name, and it was named after the greatest warrior of the Anakim tribe. So Caleb went in there, and they had not only were they giants, they had fortified cities. And Caleb said, I don't care. God's going to give it to us. And he did. And Caleb went in and he took it. And that became his land and the land of, he was the tribe of Judah. And so that was part of the land that Judah received. But it didn't matter what came up. Caleb said, God's got this. God's in control of this. And that's something that we have to keep in our minds, and we've talked about several times in here in our different studies. It doesn't matter what we come up against. It doesn't matter what the problem might be. God already knew it was coming. God already knew what he was going to do about it. We just have to be willing to accept that he's got it under control. I have gotten to where I guess a lot of people think I might be a bad citizen because I don't keep up with none of the news that's going on, because most of the time it ain't they're not telling you the truth. And it seems like the news media, all they want to tell you is the bad stuff. They don't want to tell you anything that's happening good in this world. So it's all discouraging, and if you get to listening to that, you just really get down, and you can get scared. You can say, what is this? What's going on with this world? You know, the preacher talked about that a little bit last week in his sermon. He said, everybody thinks the world's falling apart. Everything's going crazy. Our country, our government, they're not thinking about the people, they're thinking about themselves. They're thinking about which party are they with. I don't care how good their idea is. If they're from the wrong party, we don't want it. And we can get all tied up in that, and we can get distressed, and we can worry about it. But even as you follow the children of Israel, as they are going through this time, they are doing what God's telling them to do, and God is giving them, handing it over to them. And in most cases, it's like they go into war and they don't have any casualties. You know, you don't hear, the only time in the whole reading here that you hear about anybody getting killed is when they went into Ai after they had sinned against God and God wasn't protecting them. Said they lost 36 people. You never hear any other reports of people that they lost. Well, they may have. This may not have been significant. But God protected them. God took care of them. It didn't matter what they were up against. It didn't matter what the odds were. It didn't matter how small they looked in comparison. You know, at that one time, the 5 different kings come together and said that their armies were numbered like the sands of the sea. You know, they was just everywhere. We know the children of Israel had a large army, but it was probably not near that size. But they didn't have any problem with them. And it said the hailstones came down and killed more of them than the children of Israel did. God will make it happen. God will make whatever He needs you to do, He will make it possible for you to do it. No matter how hard it seems like the world is trying to mess up your life plan, if you follow God's plan, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to be there. It's going to work out. Even as you follow later on in the other books of the Bible into the Judges and all this, when the children of Israel rebel against God and they go into captivity, those people who trusted God, even though they were taken into captivity, their life got maybe a little harder, but they still trusted God. As God still took care of them, and then at a particular time, you know, Isaiah and Jeremiah would go in there and said, y'all might as well be comfortable, get comfortable here. You're going to be here for 70 years before you're freed. So you might as well go ahead and build you some houses, plant some fields, do what you need to do, make this place better than it was when you came. And I think that should always be our goal as Christians, to try to make it better than it was when we came. I see things all the time. As I'm going through my life, I keep asking God to show me stuff, and it seems like over and over, it's the little things that people appreciate the most. You know, what a lot of people don't realize is, you know, when you go to the hospital over here, you go in that parking garage, and it costs you money to get out of that parking garage, unless you have the code. Well, if you are a patient, or if you're coming there to see a doctor or something, they give you the code. They say, you have, here, this is the code department. But if you just go over there visiting, when you go walking out, if you stop by one of them welcome centers, say, hey, you got the code to the garage? Yeah. They'll give it to you. Never question it. Go by one of the nurses' stations. They'll call up on the phone and get it if they don't have it. And so I walked out, seen Randy the other day, and I said, y'all got the code? Yeah. They gave it to me. So I go walking down there, and I see this guy standing he's in his truck and he's parked up there, and I can tell he probably needs his glasses and don't want to put them in, and he can't figure out how to get out there. And I said, you got the code? And he said, I don't even know where to put anything in or how to do this thing. I said, just punch in 0707 star. And he's trying to read it to even find the 07s. And he punched it in and came out and he said, man, thank you, that's good. And it just made his day. Didn't cost me nothing. About 2 minutes of my time, but then it's just something so simple, so easy. Or you see somebody coming in and they got a load or something, open the door, hold the door open for them, let them in. And smile when they come in. Sometimes we get in too big a hurry to do for people things that we would love for people to do for us. That's what we need to do wherever we go, we need to find some way to let God's love shine through us. We need to find some way to bless someone else in the way that God has blessed us. As you go on through and you get past the story of Caleb and his faithfulness and his consistency in following God, something we can pattern our lives after. It doesn't matter. God said, this is going to be yours. And Caleb said, okay. And 45 years later, he was saying, I'm still waiting, God. And God said, okay, it's time. And he said, here I go. Sometimes we give up. Sometimes we say, well, I thought God was going to do this, but he never did. Well, that doesn't mean he's not going to. God always knows exactly when something needs to be done. He has the plan. He knows what's coming next, so he knows exactly when this needs to happen for that to all mingle together. And our understanding and our plan does not usually match up with God's because we don't have all the information. You know, it's hard to make a decision if you don't have a good decision if you don't have all the information, but God's got all the information. He knows exactly what's going to happen next. He knows exactly what he's going to do, and he knows exactly how it's going to come out because he has planned it. And we need to learn to depend on that. Toward the end of the book of Joshua, of course, several years have transferred because Joshua and Caleb was probably about the same age. And we was just talking about Caleb was 85. Well, as you get toward the end of the book of Joshua, it says, and Joshua was 110 years old. So they'd been in the land of Canaan now for 30 years, nearly 30 years. They had been still fighting and still winning and driving people out. This didn't happen overnight. You know, it was a long drawn out process, but God said, go do it, take it. Doesn't care, doesn't matter how long it takes. If you're going to be doing something, might as well be doing the right thing. And Joshua come to him, he said, I'm getting old, and you know that the Lord's fixing to take me home. And he said, and you're going to run into things. You haven't run all these people out. You haven't gotten rid of the Canaanites as God has told you to. So you're probably going to end up straying away from God and going the wrong way and start worshiping their idols. And the people come back and say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to follow God. And he said, oh, well, you probably won't. You'll probably trip up. And he just kept on. And every time they'd come back, no, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to follow God. And he said, as for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. But you can serve who you want to. And they said, we're going to serve God. We're going to follow God. Then we start next week in the book of Judges, and we find out they was lying. As soon as Eleazar and Aaron's last son, Eleazar died, and Joshua died, then they started straying away. They allowed themselves to be led astray.
We still got one more week in Joshua, don't we?
Do we?
All he gonna do is say what you said a while ago, talking about, hey, y'all gonna follow God, and they says, yeah, we are, so, it's gonna be about,
Well, yeah, well, I thought it went through the whole end of the book, but
Yeah,
anyhow,
it's gonna be
so
the
now
same.
we don't have to come next week.
well,
But,
we don't have to talk as much.
yeah,
You've already been preparing, huh?
well, let's see how much y'all remember, how much you remember next week.
That's right, it's gonna be a
Didn't mean to
review
steal
of
your
the
thunder there.
past.
One thing that I skipped over that I forgot about, you know, the 2.5 tribes that chose to stay or chose to take their land on the east side of the Jordan River. They had said they would stay and fight until everybody had received their property. So after 5 years of war, the land was divided up and everybody received there, and Joshua went to them and said, okay, y'all done what you said you were going to do. You've been here, you've stayed with us, you fought bravely with us, and you've done what you said you would do. Now you can return back to your properties. And they all received their allotments of property and allotments of land. And when they went back, you know, Joshua had built, when they crossed over, they had built a monument, an altar to God. And when these 2.5 tribes went back, they built one identical to it on the other side. Well, the children of Israel found out about that, and they said, well, they just, you know, it's kind of like a Hallmark movie. They started jumping to conclusions and deciding what they thought they was doing without asking them. They said, well, they're already straying away. They're going to start offering their own sacrifices and do their own thing and worship their own gods. And they went over there and they was ready to go to war. And they said, why are you doing this? Didn't you know that if we allow you to do this and sin, then God will hold it against all the land of Israel and we'll all be in trouble? And they said, that ain't what we did at all. He said, we're on the other side of the river. And he said, what we were afraid of is somewhere down the line, when this generation dies out and the new generation comes along, they won't know who we are and they won't think we have anything to do with them. And they will think, well, you're not of the same God that we are. He said, this is an identical altar as to the one that is really being used and is going to be offered sacrifices on. He said, but it's here so that they can see it and see that we worship the same God that they do, that we're part of the same people. They wanted to make sure that people knew who they stood for, knew whose God they were, who their God was, and who they worshiped. And that's something we need to strive to do in our life, is make sure that the people around us know what God we serve and know that we trust Him. And we need to be willing to give of what we can to other people, to minister to them, to help them to see God's love through us. So, all right. So Ronnie's set up for next week. Gave an introduction to his lesson. Y'all be praying for him and help him out, and everybody come in here and y'all have a good study. I will be thinking about you and praying for you as we travel with the old people. But we finally got our itinerary, so we're going to get to go see Dolly's truck stop.
Ooh, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that's our first stop. Our first travel stop is there. So, but we're going to see several things, and it sounds like it's going to be a fun trip. So we'll be leaving out sometime next Sunday, and we'll be back until the following Saturday, I think. But keep us in prayer as we travel. And it's always exciting, but a little bit anxious when you say, well, I'm going to spend the next 6 days with a whole bus full of people that I've never met before. But the thing about it is I have found out through my life that wherever I go, if I first seek out a church, then I already have a whole lot in common with everybody there. And if I don't, then maybe I can win them over by the time we get back. So keep us in prayer as we travel. That as we travel as a church group, that when we leave somewhere, that people say, well, those were some nice folks. They must have been from the church. Instead of saying, bunch of heathens. They come up here giving us a hard time because I brought the chicken to them late. But just keep us in your prayer, and we'll definitely be praying for you. Father, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for this lesson that we've had and the study, Lord, as we look at Caleb and his faithfulness to you and his patience in waiting, Lord, for you to do what you promised you would do for him. And God, his courage in undertaking whatever you set before him because he trusted you to be in control. God, help us to have that kind of faith and that kind of courage and that kind of determination as we continue our lives, Lord, that we will continue to serve you, continue to let others know who we serve, to continue, God, to show your love through our lives and through our actions. Go with us now as we continue to worship you and sing your praises. It's in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.